You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old network where we welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. And if I sound a little bit different, listeners, it's because we're not coming to you from our studio in Chicago. No, we're coming to you from scenic and sunny Miami, Florida for the Options Industry Conference. Got a slew of great guests lined up for you all week, so stay tuned to the network, just like our next guest, our old friend, Mr. Matt Amberson, the principal and founder over there at ORATS. Matt, welcome back to the network, sir. It has been a whole week or so.
I am a real person, Mark.
You do exist.
Flesh and blood. I know you said I'm an automaton, but you could reach over and touch me right now.
You are a real boy. I can indeed confirm that. Well, first off, it's good to see you here in person. I don't get up to New Hampshire as often as I probably should, given what a mecca of the business it is up there. So I should head that way more often. But first off, what is it that brings you down to the sunny environs, aside from talking to me, of course, to the sunny environs of OIC, sir?
The kind folks at MIAX, especially Mr. John Smolin, has asked me to join Eric Kott and company at a panel of entrepreneurs. So you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about entrepreneurial type things, and I'm very excited to do that. I think it's a great outreach that he's made, a great gesture to have. Really, I think we do the yeoman's work, right? We're out there.
Forget the exchanges. That's where the real action happens, right?
On
the entrepreneurial side of the fence.
You know, we've been to 1 million of these conferences, and all they talk about more exchange stuff. But the action is really happening. What we're doing, we're reaching out to people. We're getting people. So we're going to talk about all those things. I'm excited. I'm proud. I'm happy to represent our fellow entrepreneurs tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., Mark.
I may miss that one. I'm just letting you know. I'll be here talking, but I'll be there with you in spirit. Unfortunately, they saddled you with Kott, though, for a moderator. I don't know. I mean, who did you offend there?
Yeah, well, Eric and I have a lot of fun together, and coffee with Kott at 8 a.m. in the morning in Miami makes a lot of sense to me.
Have you checked out his new program on our network entitled, appropriately enough, Coffee with Kott?
Love it. Yeah, he'll get the best guests too, so it's going to be great.
So it's you. Is it the options play guys? Who else is on the panel with you?
Yeah, and a guy from Gatsby, and it's a funny story. I was talking. I'm going to tell this story tomorrow too. So we'll preview it here.
A sneak preview.
If you say, Matt, that story sucks. So I'm talking to this guy, family office, and we're chatting how backtesting could help convince his backers that the strategy that he wants to do is meaningful and doesn't have the drawdowns and all the stats are well. And so he's happy, and we wrap it up, and he goes, all right, thanks a lot. What have you been up to? I go, well, I'm heading down to Miami. He goes, oh, I have a friend heading down to Miami. He's on a panel. He goes, I said, I'm on a panel. And then he goes, well, he's the Gatsby guy. It's Ryan. And we're doing a screen share, so I pull up the agenda, and both of our names are right next to each other, so we got a good laugh.
I don't know them. He's coming in here tomorrow, so I plan to learn a lot more about Gatsby. I like the name. It's certainly evocative of many different things. So I suppose we'll find out exactly what it is that they do and how they do it tomorrow. But I know you guys have been pretty active back testing wise? Your ears must have been burning. I was just talking about you at the Swan RIA event. They just had it in Chicago. We did a quick kind of truncated version of the advisor's option there. We were sad you could not join us, sir, but it was fun. So yeah, everyone was talking about your back tests in your absentia, so hopefully your ears weren't burning too much. But here we are. We're still in it. We're in the throes of earnings season. Things are popping off. I know we talked about a little bit on vol views last week, but is there anything, in general maybe that has kind of leapt to your eye that you thought, wow, this is maybe in aggregate, you're saying this season, is surprisingly things are outperforming, underperforming? Anything kind of leaping off the page to you from on that front?
Yeah, it's been an interesting earnings season. The last couple have been during times of market tumult. And so this is a more mellow earnings season. And what I'm noticing is it sounds like everyone's kind of saying, oh, earnings season's great, but a lot of the stocks are down, that we're following. And I'm like, wait a second, the market's going up, but these stocks are down. They're showing, there's some great earnings out there, but I think it's really centered in just a few of the stocks, the FANGs and the Microsofts and such. So, if you look a little bit deeper, there's a little bit different of a picture going on in earnings.
Speaking of different pictures, and we just had Henry Schwartz in here a little while ago. He's the keeper of the, I call him, he does the state of the state address, the state of the market, the state of the industry address, where he talks about all the data. And it's interesting because he was mentioning an interesting anecdote that I hadn't expected, which is, volume overall is down this year, but a lot of that is centered in the equities. In the indices, and so the broad indices and ETFs. If you single out single names, appropriately enough, pun intended, actually the volume's up in the single names, which I thought was kind of interesting. So single name equity options trending up this year, indices and ETFs trending down. I thought that was kind of strange. Maybe pointing to the fact that who knows? Maybe the passive wave has finally crested a little bit. People are starting to do a little more stock selection because you'd assume if you're trading options on a single name that there's at least a modicum of stock selection involved there.
Yeah, that's a strange stat, and I love Henry's presentation.
He's the king of strange stats.
Strange stats. But we've been talking about that for a few years. A challenge is to get more liquidity in those names. So I'm wondering if that's happening. Kevin Kennedy of the NASDAQ mentioned that they're trying to get more liquidity in those names. So hopefully it's having a positive effect. We have, we do a lot of tests for pension funds and other types of trading operations that do look at single names, and we have to backtest those. And we have assumptions for slippage for crossing the bid-ask midpoint and how far to go, and it's punitive sometimes to trade some of those names. So we are seeing some tightening up, and again, I'm looking forward to Henry's actual numbers and not my anecdotal numbers.
I'm sworn to secrecy. I cannot reveal anything until I've already said too much. but it's interesting. You mentioned liquidity. That's obviously a big topic of conversation here at a conference like this. Is it better? Is it worse? What can we do to maybe foster more of it in the space? We've had some market-making firms in here. We said some brokers and exchanges. Kind of getting their differing opinions is always interesting. I always like talking to the vendor guys like you too, because you guys see a little bit more of a broad spectrum of the space, right, than just one siloed broker, one siloed exchange. Now, you obviously come from the market-making community as well. No secret that industry, that community has reduced in size, to put it euphemistically, over the past 5 to 10 years. What do you think if we as an industry got our heads together, could we really do to really maybe reverse that trend, maybe even get some new market makers coming in and maybe improve that liquidity spectrum?
Thank you for asking me. This is my favorite
topic. That's
why
I get the big bucks, sir.
For people that love the option market, that have dedicated most of their professional lives to options, these are the important questions. And it's near and dear to my heart. What I see are a couple things. One, I mentioned about encouraging market makers. We need more market makers. We need to do something to make it easier to be a market maker. We were able to go down with just a few tens of thousands of dollars and put up markets. Can't do that at all anymore. So that's one thing. It's probably related to the next thing. Exchange fees, payment for order flow, and really what really gets you are market data fees, and that just it kills a lot of new entrants into the market. I had someone call me 2 days ago, putting something together like Gatsby, and he's like, they're going to charge me $200,000 for market data a year, and you can't start a business, and you can't do the type of trading you can't, and then that's just for a retail type of a product. Think about all the data feeds that you need to buy in order to run a market making firm now. So I think you need to get some rationality and coherence in the market data feeds. You got to get some rationality and coherence in how you can find a place for someone to be a market maker. The exchanges need to protect them a little bit. We had to stand up for markets before, and there's so much smart paper out there right now that it's so difficult to be a market maker. But it's essential to the health of the industry. We've had tailwinds of a bullish market, but when things turn, and some of these market makers are challenges, like, I don't know what's going to happen. So that's my overall feeling on it, Mark.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you mentioned, just talking about the liquidity spectrum for a second, one of the things that is also contentious, and some people think it's additive, some people think it's just detracting from it, as the overall specter of auctions. I'm sure it probably complicates your task when you're out there doing back tests and things, to have these artificial barriers out there to actually have to navigate through in your analysis. Where do you come down on the auction debate? Are you think it's good advertising to show these tight markets, even if they're a little, shall we say, a little smaller? Or is it more of it's obstructive, and it kind of hides the real liquidity going on out there?
Well, I think that you want to make it as simple and as obvious to participants as possible. Like, if you're trying to explain what you just explained to a retail trader, like, okay, now your order is going to go into an auction, and then this is going to happen, that's going to happen. That's difficult. What they really need. I understand that there are times when you don't want to get picked off at a big delta, and in the auctions you might be able to participate in a certain way, and there's these kind of like the technology of the market sweeps, and the there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to get around all these things that are happening at all the different exchanges out there. Like, it's so difficult, like for Dash and SpiderRock and all that, they have to have different algos for each one of those exchanges. And then adding more, I think, just complicates the situation. I think my personal thing, especially in back testing and explaining it to people, is make it simple. It's a market. Fine. If a couple want to have an auction, and there's a meaningful reason for it, great. But some of these things are, who knows what originally what they were thinking when they put these market structures in.
It's like the penny pilot, right? It's a pilot that has persisted for 12 years now, something along those lines. Pretty much as old as the Options Insider is how old the penny pilot is. So that's a terrifying prospect in and of itself. And if that's the case, I don't know if we're going to get any movement on the auctions anytime soon. Speaking of movement, you guys have been moving and shaking a lot over there in the land of ORATS. You have the money management arm. You, of course, have the back tests. Catch us up. What are some of the hot new things coming out of the land of ORATS these days, sir?
Yeah, there's a lot. We just upgraded our back testing service. We can combine strategies. You could put your own portfolio in there. You could look at stock only, and then overlays of other types of options. Almost every request that we've had for a back test we can do now. My tech guys have just been amazing, and so we're releasing that, and then at the same time we've hopefully improved the ease of use. We've made it so there's help on every page, and we're getting a lot of people coming in too, and we're out there marketing, and backtesting is an educational tool as much as anything. People could see how things perform without risking capital, and so it gets people to feel more comfortable with trading strategies. It's not the panacea, which we've talked about people, show me that perfect back test that is going to make.
I was just asked that exact question just yesterday by someone you may be familiar with, who said, I'm just waiting for the day that Matt comes out with his perfect back test, and I'm just going to do that all the time and then forget about everything else.
And well, I haven't seen Matt for a while. He's at some remote island in the
He's
Caribbean.
on his own private archipelago.
Yeah, well, that's probably not going to happen. We work hard, and there's not a lot of edge out there, but you back test, and we have these optimizations. We're doing a lot more with signals, trying to look at, and so that's the newest thing that we're putting in are these signals, like looking at the VIX skew relationship and using that as a timer for when to get into a long stock or how to position a protection strategy when the market is in this type of a risk situation versus a risk off situation. So that's really exciting, and to be able to test all those components is really neat to do. And I think that's really the next levels of trading, is to change your trading for what the market's looking like. And the SPX and the volatility skew relationships are good indicators of what is coming in the market. Is it going to be risky? Is it not going to be risky? And now you could back test and change your strategy a little bit based on those signals, so we could test all that.
Might be a new offering from ORATS in the works, not just the back tester, but maybe your signal report, your indicator reports. The ORATS volatility indicator says it is time to be wary. Maybe something along those lines, little flashing lights. I could see some good stuff ahead of you guys there.
Well, you've always been on the forefront of helping me. You're my best marketing person, Mark.
We are cutting edge here, if not else, sir. But there is interesting to that. Obviously, it has utility in the back testing realm, but also just as people like their prognosticators. And they like things that tell them maybe when they should be wary and when not to be. And maybe too much of the latter sometimes, but we shall see. Well, Matt, you also have, of course, the asset management arm going on over there as well. What's new in the ORATS RIA business, sir?
So we did get an RIA. I'm not managing any assets per se, but it's one of the things that you do when you work with pension funds and such, is there's a RIA pension consultant specification that helps you talk to them more about what's going on, and you can get underneath. I used to have to really be careful about what I could say. Now I have a little bit more leeway about what I can say, and it makes us show all the things that we're doing and disclose the relationships, which is great. More transparency. Talk to the fine folks at the SEC and got to get all our ducks in a row, and working with lawyers and getting all that. So, it's a difficult thing to do, but something that we thought that was important to do for transparency and disclosures.
So you're one of these legions of consultants I hear floating around the pension fund. You're the problem, is what I'm hearing, Matt. You're the guys everyone's blaming. All these pension fund consultants. They don't know what they're talking. They don't know what a derivative is if it came up and bite them. So that clearly they're referring to you, sir.
Yeah. Again, the pensions like us because they get pitched so many things, and everything looks great. And then they could look at it in a different light. A lot of people are looking and using our back tester just to test what they're seeing coming in, seeing presented for them at some of these conferences, seeing presented for them at some of the meetings that they have. They could get another eye on it. So that's a really good use of our back tester.
Well, you got your panel coming up here very soon. Tomorrow you've got, of course, all the new back testing and indicators and cool doodads over there at ORATS. You got the RIA. What else is cooking? Maybe you left something out of that stew there, sir, Mr. Matt. So if there's something you want to leave our audience with, a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease, now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, underlying all of this back testing is kind of our core offerings, our data, the way we summarize skews, and now we're speeding those up more in the cloud. So a lot of people don't know that we have quotes, historical quotes offering. We can also work with data feeds in order to get the ORATS smooth market volatilities out there that we backtest on. And we show, the reason I made the backtester in the first place was to show that these proprietary calculations were effective in predicting future profitable trades. And so we have all that data, and that we sell a dividend feed. All the things that you need to service option clients and trading firms, we've been in business since 2001. So we've listen to all these requests. And before that, I used all the data to trade and have an upstairs operation with the market making operation. So a lot of people don't know about ORATS is that we have all this ancillary data going on with the backtesting and the other tools, and we're coming out with scanners and position alerts as well. So, and the big banks that
you guys have been busy.
Yeah, the people that are coming in, and talking to me about all the uses that you could use with a backtester, implementing the backtester. Then you have a position on when do you exit it. Just to try to make it easy for these folks. We talked about the Cerilli study before. The progression is they know the VIX, they see the signals, then they start to dabble with it in their own accounts. They might use a back tester, and then they're off to the races trading. That's what we do as entrepreneurs to try to take them through and get more business to the option market. And so that's what we've been busy with at ORATS.
Sounds exciting. Listeners, if you want to check it out for yourselves, ORATS.com, ORATS.com is the place. So give them a follow on Twitter while you're at it as well, at OptionRats. I love that handle. It's very evocative of many things, sir. OptionRats, at OptionRats on Twitter. And Matt, I look forward to your panel tomorrow and to all of these new initiatives and bells and whistles you've mentioned coming into the marketplace in the coming months.
Mark, it's great to be here. I love having you in my ear at all times.
And now I'm in your face.
Is great. Yeah.
Could be good or worse. I'm not depending on your point of view, I suppose. But great to catch up with you. I'll have to do it again soon, sir. Oh, wait, we will. In probably a few weeks.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.